You guys probably seen me use different types of preferments in my bread videos. Start off by making the Poolish, Biga, starter, sponge. So what exactly are preferments and what do they do to bread? And how do we know which one to use? Preferments are a portion of the dough that is mixed ahead of time and fermented, typically 3 to 18 hours before adding it to the final dough. Preferment enhances flavor, increases acidity, extends shelf life, and creates a leavening for the dough. It gives the dough a head start by activating the yeast activity. Most of the preferments are pretty much similar. You mix flour, water, and a little bit of yeast. The difference is usually the amount of water or hydration percentage. Let's go over dough hydration. The total flour that a recipe calls for is considered 100%. The amount of water compared to the total flour is the hydration percentage. If you're using 1,000 grams of flour and 700 grams of water, the hydration is 70%. The first preferment I want to talk about is Poolish. It comes from French baking but might have originated from Austria and adapted in France. Poolish is good for lighter and less acidic breads. Poolish has equal amounts of flour and water, so it's 100% hydration. You can make a Poolish by using 10 to 35% of the total flour. Then add equal parts water and a pinch of yeast. Mix and let it sit for 12 to 18 hours. The consistency will be batter-like, which will make it easier to mix into the final dough. Poolish is what I use the most for bread baking because of its simplicity and easy mix. If your total flour is 1,000 grams and for your Poolish you want to use 10% of the total flour, you will need 100 grams of flour, 100 grams of water, and a pinch of yeast. There's another preferment called sponge. Sponge are usually used for enriched doughs that include milk, eggs, butter, and sugar, such as brioche, panettone, babka, cinnamon rolls. A sponge contains most of the ingredients already, 60 to 90% of the flour, 60 to 65% hydration, all or most of the yeast, and sometimes other ingredients. It's usually ready after 2 to 8 hours. If your total flour is 1,000 grams and for your sponge you want to use 60% of the total flour, you will need 600 grams of flour, 360 to 390 grams of water, most or all of the yeast, plus additional ingredients. Biga is another preferment I have used before. It comes from Italian baking. It's a stiffer preferment because of its low hydration percentage. It's good for stiffer breads like bagels or pretzels. You can make a Biga by using 10 to 20% of the total flour, 60 to 65% hydration, and about 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon of yeast. Mix and let it sit for 12 to 18 hours before using. If your total flour is 1,000 grams and for your Biga you want to use 20% of the total flour, you will need 200 grams of flour, 120 grams to 130 grams of water, 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon of yeast. Sourdough is another form of preferment, but it contains billions of active wild yeast cells and naturally occurring bacteria that ferments bread dough. It also requires a feeding schedule. If you want to improve your dough and you don't have enough time or energy for a regular feeding schedule, then using a Poolish, sponge, or Biga would be a better method to use. I hope that helps. Until next weekend, guys. Bye!